And so on and so on. And so on and so on. And so on and so on.
Calling into the void.
You're just like Captain Ahab upon the sea, calling out to the whale.
You know what's very interesting is that in Harmon's article, when he does that thing, Peter, that guy who critiqued Zizek did, where they count how many times a name is listed.
Huh?
Yeah.
I don't know whose critique was that of Zizek.
The cheap trick.
Well, it just
It's a very
doesn't
cheap
really.
trick.
It just doesn't really.
It doesn't mean anything.
Prove anything.
Yeah.
It's like, yes, a book about Hegel will probably mention his name a lot. Okay.
It's still like
It's a
It's still
the argument.
fact,
The argument is a very 1,000 or 100 monkeys typing at 100 typewriters. Yeah, it's like everything that's in a book is just a matter of like just the finger pricks of a monkey at a typewriter.
This is 1,000 monkeys working at 1,000 typewriters. Soon, they'll have written the greatest novel known to man.
I think that you could still claim that that their focus is too narrow, or that it's obsessive and excludes and excludes other perspectives without having to trying to make it numerical, without trying to quantify.
because what number should be correct in that
Right,
circumstance?
Right, exactly,
Yeah.
About a baker's dozen. Is the second. Yeah. What the fuck?
It was the best of times. It was the blurst of times. You stupid monkey.
Yo, boys, hello. Oh, fuck.
Hey.
How we
I feel
doing?
like it feels like what happened in between our call this morning.
Kind of a lot, right?
I'm sure a full fucking day. God
Yeah.
damn it.
Well, actually, let me just say off the bat, basically nothing. I laid around most of the day
Right.
and didn't. Yeah, listen to some Tracy Chapman. Have you heard her song "Talking About a Revolution"?
No,
Fantastic. Talking about a revolution.
but it's
One of yeah.
not. You say you want to. It's not a
No, it's
response to
fucking
that.
Beatles, bro.
Well, I know, but is it a response to that?
No.
You say you
I am
want a
the walrus.
revolution, but we're talking about a revolution.
Talking about a revolution.
Have you experienced come across that critique of that song that's that the Beatles are actually sort of bourgeois middle class and trying to maintain it?
Yeah, I've heard especially this
The
is
politics of that song are not great.
they're not great in Taxman either, but it's
Yeah.
you know what? So what? They're working class boys. and
They're poor.
they're
Yeah,
not-
they're
they're not-
poor guys.
Yeah.
They were.
They
Actually,
were,
one of the last things that George Harrison did before dying was he bought a kind of castle in Switzerland to park his money so the taxman wouldn't get it.
Yeah, he didn't like Taxman, that's for sure. But
I can't believe that's the end of that anecdote. I thought you were gonna say because of his Buddhist sort of.
well, I mean, this is true of often working class people who make a lot of money. It's not
Yeah.
like they suddenly maintain a properly, Marxist. This is the problem that we've been discussing about with thinking that the working class is as such a moral agent, right? It's
Right.
being from that objective circumstance doesn't make you believe a certain thing, one way or another.
No, or actually behave financially and economically in a certain way. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, I without divulging too much personal information, working this podcast and reading the literature that we've been reading, getting the job that I've gotten, sort of looking down the barrel of an entirely new and bare financial situation, especially post COVID. It's I got to make sure that I put into practice all the things I talk about, and money tries to pretty much subvert any of your beliefs. You're oh, you believe you think that you're a flat, tight leftist? Yeah. How about you just don't make any money for 6 months? How do you feel about? And it's true. Money has this really interesting way of sort of, I don't know, what is it? An ideological trump card? It's
Well,
Oh,
yeah,
you believe that? Okay, fine.
I also don't really believe in the trope of demanding that a song conform to one's own politics, or even is expressing a politics. Like it's a song. It's a piece of
yeah,
art.
yeah. The good art, I don't really think is the same as politics, or rarely is. It sometimes is, but like politicizing bands that you love is just, I don't know. It's just kind of stupid. Just you don't have to make everything
But
about.
politicizing bands that you don't like is a lot of fun.
That is fun. Yeah, K-pop, for example, is a lot of fun to talk about. Is like hyper accelerated capitalism,
Yeah.
but it is catchy. I gotta give it that.
And yet, the K-pop stands like played a pretty amazing kind of subversive role, at least in like what like was a couple months ago with that.
Yeah,
Trump,
I mean, a prank doesn't necessarily constitute like a
a
political.
politics.
Yeah,
No, for sure. But I still
was funny.
enjoyed it. Yeah.
it was funny. So we'll try and get this new intro going like a well-oiled toilet. Hi guys, I'm Peter, and I'm joined by,
Hi, I'm Jake.
Hi, I'm Will. Hello.
and we're Zizek and Soon.
So, and so on. You might recognize me from Jake and so on, the other podcast.
Spin-off podcast is where Jake just talks about Jake.
Yeah.
So okay, we decided to put together a bit of a silly topic this week, a bit of a thought we'd have a little fun, but it's a topic very commonly associated with Zizek, and that is the noble toilet.
Silly
The common
and not
household
silly,
toilet.
and then like all of a sudden not so silly, like depending
Yeah,
on how much mushrooms you've eaten or how like serious you're willing to take it.
Yeah, one could be accused of overthinking in this circumstance, but it's also a lot of fun to think about once you go down the what's that pipe? The S pipe? That's
The U-bend.
the U
I
bend.
like-
Once you go down the U bend, there's a lot to think about.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
I
it's-
like also that classically potty humor when you're a kid is like it's the lowest hanging fruit. But here is Zizek elevating it to a high philosophical discussion. It's very funny.
When did you stop? Like, I don't know. I don't even really remember making potty jokes. I was. a
I
very
remember
sophisticated guy.
seeing there was like a kid named Dan, and we must have been in like grade 3 or something, and he was still making potty jokes. And I remember thinking like, dude, a little old to be making potty jokes at this
Yeah,
point.
come on,
Let's
man.
move
You
on.
do graduate out of them, but Zizek uses them. You know, I mean, I think what's so like what classic Zizek is. What's alluring is the lowbrow, highbrow dynamic, right? Is that he, you know, ultimately probably in the middle of a very long speech or lecture or discussion, and then or embedded in a book of his, you know, in between, you know, intensely like psychoanalytic or philosophical references, you have something that is like on the surface quite funny, and it kind of hooks you and brings you
Yeah.
in, and the
Yeah.
audience, you know, as what there's a recording of it that we listen to, you know, the audience sort of obviously laughs, and then it's like it sort of transfers very very quickly into something quite insightful, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's par excellence a dialectically materialist move in
Yeah.
like more ways than one, but like it's very much the physical and then literally like excremental analysis of these kind of universal ideas that he's discussing.
The surplus.
Yeah, the stain of the real.
Yeah, well, I was wondering if we could go this whole sort of chat episode without mentioning what is it like his definition of the subject as this sort of little piece of excrement or the real, the excrement of the real.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
well, I mean,
it's a very difficult psychoanalytic point.
yeah, well, and I think a great example is, you know, you just to hit these toilet refs like right off the bat. It's like when you're trying to flush a toilet and the shit grazes against the side and leaves like kind of coats the side of the toilet, and the rest of it goes down, and you like this horrible like substance that should be, you know, gone forever.
Well,
into
and
another
to
world.
really, yeah, to invest the flush with the faith that it will take care, you know, to sort of eliminate the thing that you'll never have to see again.
It's
Well, at
you
least it's
expect
raised,
you
you know.
expect a kind of symbolic efficiency of the whole thing, but what you get perhaps is a stain on the real.
Yeah, maybe we want
A
to.
skid mark on the
A
reel.
stain of a stain of the reel.
Yeah.
The symbolic being maybe the toilet bowl. In the imaginary, I'm not sure.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're talking about poo poo and pee pee today on Zizek and Sullivan.
Yeah.
So maybe we can go through the actual example of the three types of toilet.
Yeah, you wanna take that away?
He goes through the kind of three. He says kind of that they're. It's actually funny thinking of why he chooses specifically these three types of toilets, because there are many types of toilets in the world. You've got squat toilets. You've got the fancy, late capitalist Japanese toilets. But he settles on the traditional German toilet, French toilet, and depending on the example, the American or Anglo-Saxon toilet. And who wants to describe the German toilet? I think we can start with that one.
Well, there's having recently been there. There's obviously a variety of toilets in any country, but what he's talking about is you look down into the bowl, and there's kind of a platform raised, which towards the front of the toilet drops into the hole where the excrement goes down. But it's like a raised platform, so when you shit into it, your shit is like right there, like close and raised and elevated and immediately accessible if you care to inspect it.
It's not even
is,
in water.
Yeah,
it's just
he
sitting
thinks
there
there's
right on porcelain.
something quintessentially German about that.
Yeah, and what he says is that in the kind of sort of stereotype of the sort of meditative, contemplative German attitude, the sort of poetic, metaphysical attitude, one kind of sniffs one's own shit and contemplates the aroma. Yeah.
Inspect
health.
Inspects it. Yeah.
You inspect it. Yeah, you can actually. It's actually sort of about like reading.
I don't know how you inspect
inside.
shit, but
he actually uses the term hermeneutics. It's
the hermeneutics of the toilet, right? Yeah. Where so like interpretation begins with one's own, fecal matter.
Yeah.
And the French one he refers to as revolutionary.
The French one. I have a lot of experience with French toilets recently, but I guess that's beside the point. But anyway,
been to France recently.
I've been to France. In a French toilet, the hole is at the back, but it kind of disappears into the bowels of the toilet, so that when you shit into it, you can't actually see what you've done.
Out with the old.
Yeah, right.
It's
exactly, out with the old, and then you flush it, and he reads this as a kind of typical French revolutionary gesture, as sort of liquidating the undesirable aspect, right?
Yes.
And then Jake, how about you tackle the Anglo-Saxon toilet?
I don't know. I was enjoying listening to you guys do. Well, the Anglo-Saxon is the in between, right? He locates it as in between the French and the German, which is that there's this like sort of bizarre pool in which the shit can float, right?
And you don't have to think about it too much.
You can't totally inspect it because of the situation in the bowl, but also it's still present, and then you pragmatically sort of get rid of it as well as the water in which it's submerged, right?
There's an example he often tells with this. It's not toilet related, but he does another kind of gesture where he's pointing to the differences between the kind of North American perspective versus the European, and he says that one of the best ways of encapsulating the difference between North America and Europe is the way in which the first floor is numbered on a building. Mm-hmm. So in Europe, when you walk into the building, you're already on the first floor, and in North America, you're on floor 0 or ground floor, and then you go up to the first floor. And he says that in Europe, starting from tradition, they're already at 1, right? They already have the tradition, the ground upon which they act. And in North America, the tradition is not assumed in the same way, so you move up through that tradition.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that I mean, the point being that, and this is more in reference to toilets, but I think you can read it there too. The point being that ideology, in a sense, is also material, and just when you think you're kind of walking away from ideology, and you're going to the toilet in what might seem as a perfectly natural situation, even there, you're, as he says, knee deep in ideology.
You're eating from the toilet of ideology. You're shitting on the toilet of ideology.
Yeah.
But yeah, that I think that's his main point there, right? Like he often speaks of ideology symbolically, but this is the dialectical move, right? It's like even in our very kind of material existence, we are immersed in all these presumptions and manifestations of ideology, and the fact that it changes by country is such a clear indication of that.
And I think that by focusing or by using the image of or example of a toilet is he's trying to sort of zero point it, right? It's like if ideology can be present while you're taking a shit,
Mm-hmm.
then then it's sort of like it's about understanding how ideological permeates every level of experience, and there's not a place in which we could be post ideological. So sometimes I think about the relief that you can get from when you like walk into a restroom and you close the stall door and you think that you're on the other side of the symbolic, right? You're like, for about 5 minutes you're not going to be participating in ideology, but it's absolutely not true. I mean, not only is the toilet that you're defecating in of a expressive of a particular ideology, but usually the way in which the toilet paper is dispensed, the type of toilet paper that's in there.
Yeah.
What kind of
what the room is called. The room is called restroom, bathroom, toilet, water closet. These are all like ways of saying what it is without actually saying what it is.
Well, and this is why sorry, Will. I was gonna
go ahead.
No, I think you got it, because I was gonna just bring up the Lacanian example of the two bathroom doors.
I was about to say that, yeah.
Yeah, you bastard. Yeah, look at us. Okay.
I was also going to say that. I was about to say that.
We were all going to say that. So Jake, how about you say it?
No, let us all say it. I mean, so what is Lacan trying to do? What is he trying to example with those two doors? He's trying to show that that language actually affects even the way in which we would move, for example, right? So like, but beyond that, what's the conceptual point being made? Not just like the material, like we see a sign over a door that says male or female, and we actually move, right?
Well, the scenario is that, if I'm getting it correct, a train pulls into a station, and there's sitting towards each other on facing seats is a boy and a girl, or a man and a woman, and the side of the window obscures a portion of each of their views, and they can each only see one bathroom, and the man can see only the men's room, and the woman can see only the women's room, but they both see them as the toilet. So he's making a point there, obviously, about sexuation.
Yes.
That within the kind of symbolic realm of the sex subject, there seems to be only one destination, right? Mm-hmm. But that there is also, because there are two bathrooms, one of which is obscured, there also seems to be a misrecognition of the kind of in this case actually proceeding to the toilet, right? Because when you walk into the bathroom, there is that kind of there can be that sense of kind of the hysterical reaction to it. Why am I a man walking into a man's bathroom?
Right.
Why am I?
Yeah, or the moment of horror when you realize you've walked into the wrong one.
To the quote unquote,
wrong one. Quote unquote wrong one, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it was a thought that I had when I knew we were going to be talking about this. I was like, it begins at the door of the bathroom, right?
Exactly.
It's the sort of the inscription of ideology, and how I would say how enjoyment is organized in a society begins with.
Yeah, but again, what I think another element of what you were saying was the way in which these euphemisms for a room with a toilet in it are kind of encapsulate the relationship we have towards the act and the substance, the shit itself, right? Like how do we want to get rid of it? And in certain circumstances, it needs to be done away with as fast as it can, or it needs to be inspected. But there's clear that not only is the act and the room and the object kind of informed by ideological and symbolic meanings, but there's something itself about shit and the need to get rid of it that kind of exceeds the symbolic.
Excess.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There's a monstrosity there, or kind of horror.
Yeah. So the great example in Zizek, and I think we mentioned it recently in film, but in the film episode, but in the conversation film by Francis Ford Coppola when Gene Hackman is investigating a room where he thinks a murder took place and flushes the toilet, and there's a blockage in it, and it starts to overflow with blood upwards, and it's like this terrifying moment for him. And it's not that what was concealed in it, but it's what was supposed to be in it is coming back out, and that for Zizek is the kind of kernel of the real that comes back into our symbolic world when we think we've done away with, this remainder.
Right. Well, and so on some level, how we treat that excess, right, waste, is indicative of perhaps even like in a way that's epitomizes Lacanian psychoanalysis, is how we treat this excess of the real is demonstrative of or indicative of like the ideological framework that we're in. I mean, both in its specificity, but also how it works on us, how it is inscribed in every element of our situation. It's exampled most in how we treat this like literal excess. And Lacan goes so far as to say that like it's what makes humans, separate from other animals, right?
The concern over what to do with that shit.
Exactly. Yeah. And almost like what is it? Almost unilaterally though, there's a concept of ridding of it. Like I don't know of a culture that saves it.
Right. Yeah.
You have a cat on your desk right now. We can refer to them.
Yeah. Well, I have to shovel her shit every couple of days. So the real of Norma is really just my responsibility. Norma being my cat. Yeah. Yeah. Have you ever been wrist deep in the reel of somebody else?
But I think there is a point there also about the kind of failure of the human subject, right? There's something. There's the kind of Lacanian point there. He says this about sexuality, but I think it's true about excrement, that we, because we're the only animal that relates with its own shit in the way that we do, there's something kind of like there's something off there or failed, you could say, in our own relationship to our shit. Like there's a kind of incompleteness there, right? Because an animal, he says this at another point, that animals are kind of complete, but I think that our relation to our shit might kind of betray a certain incompleteness that we have with our relationship to it. That if we were, we wouldn't worry about it, right?
Well, that would be it's a problematic, right? It's something
exactly
that's problematized for us, whereas the incompleteness of the animal is not something that's contemplated or brought up into their very, as I keep using this word, but like brought up and taken up into their situation. Like our very incompleteness needs to be dealt with, and it's dealt with by ideology. It's smoothed over by ideology, right? Mm-hmm. And so like think about the efficacy of the various toilets we're talking about. I think on some level they all deal with quite effectively the incompleteness that's present in the fact that there's waste, there's byproduct, there's excess. And so like and there's like no better or more effective way than dealing with the literal excess than the toilet,
the fact that it's even seen as an excess, right?
Well, there's shame. I think about the simultaneity of shame and consciousness. Actually makes me think Nietzsche. Bad faith and fucking.
Well, I was gonna bring up Nietzsche with eating his own shit, but what also comes to mind?
Copropopocetic or something like that.
What is that word?
If that is the word, I'll fucking eat my own shit.
I
swear to God.
You told me that word, Jake,
Yeah, we did.
a while ago.
I know.
Yeah. But I wanted to add another dimension. With I just moved into a new spot.
Sorry. This just in. Coprophagic. I was close.
Coprophagic. Yeah, coprophagic.
Okay.
I
Yeah.
know.
So I just
gotta play that tape. I don't know how close that was. Sorry, Peter. Go ahead.
So I just moved into a new place, and the toilet is unlike any I've ever seen. It's like a regular North American toilet, but the tank on the top of it opens up, and there's a sink with this, looped tap, and every time you flush the toilet, the sink runs and flows directly back into the tank.
But wait, it's built onto the toilet, the sink?
Yeah, the sink is part of the tank of the toilet, and the water comes out. It sounds like a tap running every time you flush the toilet, and it runs for like a really long time. I think it's meant to give you the impression that you can use it. You can wash your hands using the clean toilet water, but it's only meant to give you the impression, because I don't want to clean my hands with the toilet water.
Well, you're not. So I just finally understood what happens is that the drain of the sink, so that's fresh water. It then goes into the tank of the toilet.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
I still don't want to use the
Because you
toilet to clean my
associate it
hands.
with the toilet that it's
Yeah.
stationed on. Yeah.
But it's like, my guess was that it's not even meant to be used. It's meant to be like seen as part of the toilet, because it's
the super ego, man. It's like
Yeah.
you should be washing your hands.
that, and
Have you washed
it's a
your
bio toilet. It's meant to give you the impression that you're saving water while you're washing your hands.
Right,
and
because
filling
the
toilet.
wastewater that's flushed into the toilet is water that you've washed your hands with, right?
that
Exactly.
and
It's like the example that Zizek uses of putting seeds in bullet casings. It kind
exactly, yeah.
of cancels out the
Well, it kind of cancels out the act. Like when you buy, another example is when you buy Starbucks coffee, and like built into the price is the the humane practices, the best treatment of their workers. But that's
Exactly.
merely to give you the idea that you've achieved
Your
something.
coffee is
when you have-
$6.50, but 25 cents of it is going to the Somalian children.
So
who...
so just to
Yeah,
finish
like
the thought-
don't think about the fact that you're flushing drinking water into the toilet.
No, we're gonna they're gonna alleviate the fucking stress and allow you to double use the water.
So just to finish the thought, there's the tank is the biggest tank I've ever seen. So it's actually like uses more water than a regular toilet. And then what comes to mind, obviously, is that the fantastic Trump tirade about eco products. Like, we gotta use the toilets. We gotta have the flushing toilets.
The dishwasher. What's the fucking thing with the dishwasher? He's like, so they wanted more water. We gave them more water. They did, they got all kinds of water. We've got more water than no one has ever seen before.
Toilets don't flush anymore, folks. You gotta have big toilets, big flushy toilets.
Toilets.
What the fuck? Yeah. Well, this plays into my
I gotta
briefly,
say,
like what he's getting at there, if Trump had a philosophical point, it might be that the ideology of the oppositional political opinion to his, that of ecological politics, is evident in the actual toilet.
yeah.
He has a problem. It's not a problem with just the toilet won't flush. He has a problem with the politics encapsulated in the toilet.
Toilets.
I kind of agree though, because like those products they're like austerity, right? They're like it's not incumbent on the companies and the mass corporations to do anything about waste. It's up to you, the consumer, to have a shitty little shower head that doesn't do anything, and you look like Jerry with the he can't get the shampoo out. Seinfeld.
Yeah. No, it's like buying green toilet paper from Charmin, thinking that you've what you've done for the planet is embedded in your need to purchase fucking toilet paper from a giant corporation owned by what is it, Procter and Gamble or Johnson and Johnson.
It's made from like pulp, like tree pulp from like the fucking
you as a
Brazilian
consumer,
rainforest or something.
Yeah. You as an individual consumer are feeling responsible for the environment. Let us facilitate, your guilt. Let us
Mediate it.
Yeah.
mediate it. Yeah.
That, as well as like the other side, the like, oh, we live in a wasteful society. It's your fault as an individual. How many many cans of
buy
Coke did
better.
you-
Buy better. Well, my fucking bone to pick, so to speak, has to do with urinals. And I remember, this is pre-Zizek, because I remember being actually quite incensed by this urinal, but like I was peeing in it and there's an inscription on the top of the urinal it speaks about it being a waterless device. And so it
So it
says to you,
smells fucking
by
horrible.
it's like by peeing in this urinal, you're saving like, X number of gallons of water per year. And as you pee, like you might be lucky enough to watch the numbers, which are digitized, like increase. So
It's
like you'll be
gamified.
peeing, it'll be like 12,166. And while you're peeing, it goes from 12,166 to 167. And you get this like weird kind of like thrill, like you put
Yeah.
something in a fucking machine and it gave something back to you. Exactly. Right.
Yeah,
Wow,
like
you
in
peed
high
out.
school,
Like-
they had those same toilets, the waterless ones, but because they're designed in such a way like to not need water, they're also extremely splashy. So they put this little they put a little icon where you're meant to pee, just so you aim at the right spot, and it's it's like a ladybug or like a little butterfly, and just the concept of like being coaxed into aiming in this thing.
Well, coaxing is the word, right? Because actually that is based on the economic principles of this guy that actually recently won the Nobel Prize for economics. It's called nudging. And it's this idea that you kind of nudge consumers into making the right choices.
Oh my
And
god.
I mean that you got to say it. It's ideology at its purest.
So
Yeah.
fuck who gets to decide how we're nudged?
Joke's on him though. There was pee everywhere.
But back to this goddamn urinal that convinces you that your pee is actually doing something more than just because this
That's
is
a
the
great
ideological
point. Yeah.
framework for me. Like on some level, if we take Zizek and understand like this being a situation in which how we treat our excrement is indicative of ideology. It's so interesting to me that moves like this tries to save that. It's like you're not just dealing with your excrement, you're also an ecological hero.
Yeah,
You didn't
yeah.
just pee today, you peed in the right place and you did it in the right way, and you've had an impact with something that is automatic, which is biological, that you're going to be doing anyway. So like let's have like green toilet paper and waterless urinals, and like let's plop a sink on top of every toilet. And ultimately it's like you're not just eliminating the excess, you've turned it into something that it's not.
It's a server.
Yeah,
It becomes a server plus.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you've
Plus, in-
transmogrified it. You've turned lead into gold.
Yes,
Or
exactly.
yeah.
Exactly.
And
in this case, it's
and
gold and
yeah, and Jake, towards that point you were just making, in Zizek's most recent book that I'm reading, Hegel and a Wired Brain, he brings up this example of the closed door button on an elevator that we all know doesn't actually do anything. And he's wondering like what function does
why
this
do
serve?
we have that?
Why do we have the closed door button? It's to give you the user's illusion that you're actually doing something. So
You're
it's
controlling this
an empty placeholder that sort of convinces you that you actually have control when you don't.
Well, this is the whole thing we've been discussing in terms of the symbolic order, right? Like it's ultimately like without substance. It's like the signifiers are empty of a concrete meaning. Just that they're kind of linchpinned in the symbolic order, but not by this kind of total truth, but the idea, the big other, but the way in which just by itself, a toilet with a sink in it doesn't mean anything, but it means something within the kind of arbitrariness of the symbolic order in terms of like,
and
ecology.
exactly. And this is actually another level to the joke about the toilet. Is he's joking about structuralism as well, that that signs gain meaning in their difference, so that in itself a toilet doesn't actually mean anything. But as he says in one of the texts that we read today, it's from The Plague of Fantasies, the ideological investment of such references to utility is attested by their dialogical character. The American toilet acquires its meaning only through its differential relation to French and German toilets. So he's concretizing the sign as the toilet. He's saying that this dialogical character to the toilet exists as in the same way that signs gain meaning. It's kind of a side point.
In
But
the
it's a funny
system
one.
of differences, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not. I don't want to shit all over like the as it were, like all over the idea of like making these practices more ecological. It's just we need to be fucking conscious of the fact that they are ideological. That these practices are like, my thing would be like, why don't you fucking make the goddamn things more ecological, and why do you have to tell me about it?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Because on some level that's the surplus enjoyment is have the person who is doing the automatic function that they would normally be doing feel differently about it. So in North America, right, it's like we're getting told left, right, and center that what we're doing is either helping or destroying the ecological situation. I mean, I like that, but at least with the three examples that Zizek draws, it's like at least they're structurally ideological, but they're not like symbolically like the symbolism isn't inscribed as it is in North America, which is like it's literally everywhere, right? This
I think a good example of that exact maneuver you were talking about, the telling you about it as a kind of surplus enjoyment on the act itself. It's like when you get a bag of chips and it says like now with 25% more. It's like, no, that's just how much chips are in there. There's not more chips. The bag of chips has what it has,
Exactly.
and saying that there's more in there doesn't change the actual content of the bag of chips.
I bought these fucking supplements, this omega supplements, because I'm worried my heart's gonna fail, and so apparently it's good for your heart. And it's like 150 pills plus 50, and it's like you could have charged me the $17 and just put 200 in there. Like, why are you making me feel like I'm getting bonus here? It actually says bonus 50. It's like fucking everyone had bonus 50.
It's surplus enjoyment, baby.
Like, what kind of
That's
fucking
what it's all
idiot
about.
wouldn't buy the one with it's a nudge. It's a total nudge. If you put bonus 50 on this package, guess what? The fuckers they're gonna pay a little bit more and buy 200 pills instead of 150. But we're gonna make them feel as if they're partaking in the surplus.
They're in on the project with you.
I have a huge problem.
Oh,
with
hey! I have this bag of vitamins, and like I have more. Do you happen to want those?
Yeah,
those
Peter, I got
extra
100.
vitamins?
I got 50 extra vitamins. Would you like them? They're surplus. You know, I didn't actually pay for them. It wasn't built into the cost.
But I mean, there's a maneuver. Yeah, that's exactly the type of maneuver that gets pulled like on your labor in general, right? Like when you're producing something, the surplus isn't presented as an actual value that's drawn out of your labor. You know, like your labor produces way more value than the compensation that you receive for it, right? Like,
yes.
and that surplus is mystified as profit for the company, right? Which is only ever created by the worker. And but like that maneuver of making that process mysterious, I think is a similar function that, like, you know, poo-pooing or pee-peeing in a toilet is never just that, right? There's all these other extraneous like details and presumptions that have to be laid onto it in order to just really, you know, you're really the function you're doing is no different, except that it's entirely different within the symbolic order.
No, I think there's a process of justification, and in sort of like it doesn't totally elide the surplus, but it just names it something else and mystifies it as something else, and it transfer. It's like it's 50 pills, but call it bonus 50 pills, or you know what I mean? It's like.
But isn't that the way that basically all commodities work anyway? It's kind of making a little more obvious what is already happening with every commodity.
Well, yeah, the commodities are mystified. They're fetishized and made into something within the process of exchange, completely like other than the mere like materiality of what they are.
Right.
Yeah. And in this case, we're actually talking about excrement.
Yeah. So like shitting in a toilet is not. It's not just. You're not simply relieving yourself.
No. Which is
you're
already a deeply ideological thing, right?
I think you could say to some extent you're kind of interpolated by the toilet.
So this is Will. God damn it. Because I was gonna say, you know, I actually am not an Althusser expert or Althusser, but there's something deeply interpolative about going to the bathroom. I mean, obviously the Lacanian example of right? On some level, but there's like I think that I mean, Zizek is saying that the throne that you sit on to excrete makes you a subject on some level, and this is I think deeply Althusserian. Is like, who doesn't? I mean, I don't know. Like, are there people?
Isn't it interesting that in the modern age, with the dethroning of the royalty, you give everyone a porcelain throne in their own home, thus wait, fuck.
Is what I'm saying ridiculous? I need to just titrate that.
It's totally ridiculous. I mean, it's totally ridiculous but I think in a certain sense, like in the modern age, everyone acquires their own throne, and yet it's for it's for shitting, right? There's nothing there's nothing sacred about it, right?
There's something excremental about it.
Excremental, exactly.
So the lot of the modern subject, I mean, it's an excremental subject, right? It's a stained subject.
But no, it's like, okay, I mean, okay, I like, this is a bit of a deep, like,
might cut that part out, but I think
Man,
I thought that was good. Go ahead, Jake.
When I was a kid, I spent like I did a 5-week canoe trip in Labrador, which is a place in Canada, northeast.
God, you never shut up about this trip.
Yeah.
Jake, do something else with your life.
It was literally 15 years ago, and it's probably that and the high school play I acted in are my 2 greatest accomplishments. And as said, obviously
It's over.
It's been supplemented by this podcast. So there you go. There's like 3 things. But this trip, like after we came back, you've basically been shitting in the woods and wiping your butt with leaves for like 5 weeks, and then you enter a bathroom, in some like rest stop in northern Quebec, and you sit on a toilet for the first time in 5 weeks, and you're like, there's something deeply subjectivizing about it. You're like, oh, I'm now like, there's like the human register, right, is pronounced when you sit on a toilet. Like, why am I sitting on this toilet? Who am I sitting on? Who am I that needs to use this fucking, right? Like,
yeah.
Twice. And I mean, obviously, this is why I tried to preface this with, like, this is a little bit stupid and abstract. But man, I mean, come on, like, human beings, why do we use these things? Why do we?
Yeah.
Why?
Hey, what's with this thing over here? Like, what are you gonna do with it? It's just what's it made of? Like, what are you? Who are you gonna sit on it?
What is that? Yeah, exactly. But it fucking, come on, we all know how to use it, like back of our hand, familiarity.
Well, and I think the thing that we miss is that it's not just this benign object. It's completely determined by cultural context and cultural practices and ideological practices.
That's a really neat way of saying what I was trying to say. Yeah.
Exactly. Well, I mean, I experienced something similar, like when we went to India when we were 19.
Come on,
and like
get over it. It's in the past. Stop talking about it.
You guys don't shut up about it.
I've been to India. No, but suffice it to say that the experience of using a toilet in India is extremely different than using a toilet in the West. You're squatting down. It's often pretty dirty, pretty smelly in there, and I think the biggest difference, because there are squat toilets in Europe too, squat toilets in France and Italy, but the really different thing about using a toilet in India is when you wash your hands, right? Sometimes there'll just be like a bucket of water, or sometimes there's like a tap that's like at squat level next to the toilet, and what you're supposed to do is you wipe with your left hand. With your hand, and then you wash your hands in the tap. And so this is why people don't shake with the left hand in India, and the left hand is considered dirty because it very well could be. But that all to say like, or all to say.
Oh, that's how you say that. Okay.
All to say.
But all to say. This is another example of complete cultural determination of using, like you would never get that kind of attention to those details in the West, because we simply don't dispose of our waste in that way. It's so completely differently determined and symbolically determined that it's so foreign to use the toilet, to be squatting down and to be sort of posed completely differently. In a sense, subjectified differently. Not that Indian people are necessarily differently subjectivized, but I think the point remains
in a kind of a different valence, right?
Well, and just
between
that,
you and your shit in the toilet.
Yeah, and just the dimension of like the way in which like the relationship to the left and the right hand is a clear way in which the like the practice of shitting involves these greater social symbolic differences and orders and realms.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
And
was
actually,
thinking-
one more little pithy example here. My girlfriend's mother is from East Germany, and I was talking to her before we were doing the episode, and she mentioned that her mother lived in this kind of tenement building, and there was a single toilet on each floor that was actually kind of bizarrely it was half a story down from the story that you lived on.
Mhm.
So it was in this kind of like nether region between the floors.
Yeah.
And this is the weirdest part. All of the toilets, so there's one, this building was about 7 stories high, and the toilet on the top floor was basically just a hole that went directly into the hole of the 6th story.
Yeah.
So you
I
have
fucking knew
essentially one toilet, and when you had to go take a shit, you had to be extremely aware and vigilant of the people shitting above you. 'Cause
Wait,
you could get
so
shit on.
all of them went down to the bottom. It's not just the 7th to the 6th, but it's all the way
No,
down.
all the way down. Yeah.
Huh.
So I just like there's something actually I think like you can kind of read the kind of flavor of GDR style communism in that way. This kind of like panopticon Stasi-esque
Yeah, everyone shits
shitting
on each other.
experience.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, and also having to keep an eye on other people's shit, right? Because there was this kind of
Unreal.
my girlfriend's mother actually had as a roommate someone who she found out later was working for the Stasi, who in a sense was keeping an eye on her shit, you know.
God
So
damn
there's
it.
yeah.
I think-
so.
I
This
think
is just
Zizek-
another good example of that, I think.
I think Zizek would very much like that example.
Yeah,
think you
that's very good.
Yeah, and just the one more element of like, I mean, everyone kind of uses the same toilet. There's a kind of this communistic or communal aspect to shitting, but then also there's the threat. There's also the threat of the communal
No doubt.
experience. Yeah.
Well, and yeah, the community is kept together by their shared by the shared level of threat.
But it's all based around a no less significant or more significant like trauma of what to do with this stuff, right? Like they're all reactions of how to relate with the excremental concern. Like they're different band-aids to the
Strategy-
kind of wound
strategy.
of having to excrement and what to do with it.
Yeah,
Mhm.
exactly. Yeah.
And ain't that just a microcosm of society?
Yeah. Yeah. I wanted to, like, this is maybe another stupid point for me, but you know, like how Althusser, like, the interpolative example is the cop, yells, "Hey, you," on the street, and you turn around, and so you're interpolated by the what is it? What does he call it? The ideological mechanism of power. What is it? What does he call those?
Oh, the ideological state apparatus.
Thank you. Yeah, ISAs. I was thinking about like when you shit and turn around and you look, your shit calls your name. It actually doesn't call your name. It just says, "Hey, you." Turn around, you look at it, and you're like, "God damn it, it is me." Yeah, it's an isolated, interpolative moment where that the shit is, in fact, when it says, "Hey, you," it's you.
But it's like
well,
like,
you know that all the
it's
more all the
what's
more
in
when
you.
it goes wrong, right? Like when
Yeah.
when you have to plunge or like God forbid something worse happens, suddenly you're confronted, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
but
yeah.
it's also what is in you that is also not you, right? Like
Right.
you're,
It's
you
everything
can't
that
you
you
can't
didn't
just
incorporate.
you
It's
can't
everything
just
you didn't
like get rid of your hand in the same way. Like there's something that is outside of yourself about it, but it also comes from deep inside you. So
Or
this is
see-
like this is the substance and the subject, right? Like there's this dynamic
Yeah.
between the exterior and the interior that gets
Mhm.
brought out and is horrifying about shit.
The extimate, yeah, totally. The extimate is,
yeah.
the relationship between the internal and external is literally dramatized every time you take a shit. Unreal. Yeah, that's a great point.
What is
Who
the
made that
pres-
point? That was me, wasn't it? Oh yeah, okay.
That was
Good.
what is
Good one, Jake.
What is the precise ontological status of a fart?
On next week.
Well, I
Next week,
remember.
we talked to Judith Butler about the ontological status of a fart.
I remember actually in a footnote in this class I was taking on Freud that Freud kind of speculates the reason why humans stood up, why we're bipedal, is because we became ashamed of the stench of our genitals, so we stood up to avoid the smell.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's food for thought.
And so advancing, because bipedalism basically took us from, quadrupeds who could only source particular foods. Becoming bipedal made us, ostensibly
It made us bifecal.
bipedal. No,
Sorry, that was bad.
no, but it stood us up, and then we sort of the catalyst for a particular Homo sapien advance. He thinks it's because we were smelling each other's ass and genitals, and we didn't like it. But at some point we did.
Well, I think what at some point we did is what becomes involved in the sexual component of all that. But that's
But there's also the cognitive component as well.
Also,
right?
next week we asked Judith Butler with the hard hitting questions. We're coming in down the chute real hard with the ontological and sexual status of genitals and farts. Wow. I feel like that guy from grade 3, Dan, who took it one step too
One step too far.
one step too far.
Oh god.
That was one step too far for sure. Sorry about that.
Let's end this shit.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
All right,
Sounds good.
guys. Good talking to you.
Yeah, totally.
I think we're talking to Agon Hamza this week, right?
Yeah. Yeah, we got it.
That should be
That'll
cool.
be interesting.
Okay, boys.
All right, guys. Talk soon.
Yeah.
Bye bye.
Enter one, enter one. Enter one, enter one. Enter one, enter one.